Let me tell you about The Big Catch. I've been following this game since I discovered its Kickstarter a couple of years ago. It looked incredible. It's an expressive platformer collectathon being developed by indie studio Filet Group, showcasing some really fun movement and a beautiful low-poly aesthetic. The basic setup has you playing as Castor, an acrobatic fisherman trying to catch fish for the titular Big Catch, a restaurant in the middle of a desert wasteland. And the bits of gameplay we get in the trailer and other footage they've released looks like so much fun. Castor's wall running, jumping on points like he's Sly Cooper, swinging on poles, using his fishing rod as a grappling hook. There's Zelda-like sand surfing, and is that rail grinding? I was in awe watching this trailer and looking through the Kickstarter page. This game was checking all the right boxes for me. I love collectathons and platformers in general, but lately I've gotten a real taste for expressive platformers. Expressive platformer is a relatively new term which was coined by Fabrez, the creator of Demon Turf, another really cool expressive platformer. Expressive platformer describes the type of platformer that really emphasizes in-depth movement that allows you to express yourself through it to navigate the world. Think like how spectacle fighters like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta are all about flashy, expressive combat that encourages you to experiment, but the platformer equivalent. The Mario Collectathons, 64, Sunshine, and Odyssey, are clear examples of this type of platformer. Mario 64 arguably pioneered a lot of the aspects associated with expressive platformers. Sadly, not many other games took inspiration from that game's movement back then. Instead, we had Banjo-Kazooie, which took the collectathon part of Mario and refined the exploration, but in a slower, more methodical way rather than an expressive movement-based way. And that's the game that would define what collectathons would be. Don't get me wrong, I adore Banjo-Kazooie, its spiritual sequel Donkey Kong 64, and its actual sequel Banjo-Tooie. Tooie, I think, is the absolute pinnacle of this style of collectathon. That game is a goddamn masterpiece. But Banjo essentially defined the collectathon genre, and the movement of 64 was not taken very much by other games. Even though I do love Banjo and those games, it's a shame that other aspect got neglected. But that's where indie games come in. People who played Mario 64 and Sunshine growing up and are now wanting that style of game that's been so neglected. I've already mentioned Demon Turf, a great stage-by-stage expressive platformer. Think the level structure of Mario Galaxy with the movement of Mario 64. And one of my new favorites and personal 2023 Game of the Year, Pseudo Regalia, an expressive platformer merged with a Metroidvania where you have this really powerful and versatile moveset that you unlock as you explore the map. This game, let me tell you, is incredible. It has the most impressive 3D platformer moveset I've played. I'll definitely cover this game in the future. And now, there's The Big Catch, one of the best looking expressive platformers I've seen in both moveset and presentation. I discovered this game the same way I discover a lot of indie games, on Twitter, though I've since abandoned that hell site and gone to Bluesky. Someone I followed retweeted the Kickstarter trailer that had just launched back in 2022. To say I was impressed by what I saw would be an understatement. Everything about it just clicked with me. The fast and expressive momentum-based movement, the low-poly visuals, and such an interesting looking world to explore. It also looked to be a collectathon, one of my favorite genres. I was amazed. The more I looked at it, the more I basked in its glory, the more I knew this would be something special. And I just had to back it. The Big Catch claims the honor of being the very first game I've ever backed on Kickstarter. There have been other Kickstarter games that I've wanted to back, but either didn't have much money to spare, or just wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to back it. And similarly, I didn't know if I was going to back this, but then I remembered how much I regretted not backing Yooka-Laylee during its campaign, and I pulled the trigger. One of the reward tiers was to gain access to a toybox demo that Filet Group would eventually release. And last June, the devs had made that demo, but generously released it available to everyone for free. This is the Big Catch Tacklebox, a prologue for the main game that's big enough to be its own small game, that I want to emphasize is completely free, so you have no excuse to not play it. And you should, because this demo is one of the best 3D platformers I've ever played. Alright, let's dive right into the Tacklebox and take control of... Wait, that's not Caster. Who's this guy? Well, this is Tackle. He's essentially Caster's rival, the Falco to Caster's Fox, the Shadow to Caster's Sonic. If it wasn't obvious, the Tacklebox is all about Tackle, and Caster isn't even in it. The main game is where Caster will shine, though Tackle will be playable there as well, since that was a stretch goal that they reached. So there's not a lot of an actual plot to the Tacklebox. What we do have lacks a bit of context, and to get that context, we can look at the official website for The Big Catch. They've got a bit of a more detailed summary of the premise of the full game, but more importantly, we have some character bios. Tackle is described as having been born with a chip on his shoulder, but ultimately still wants to do the right thing. And while he's equally as skilled as Caster, he's a bit of a slacker, and that leads to him being overshadowed by Caster. They seem to have a playful rivalry where Tackle constantly wants to show up Caster and is frustrated when he can't. Both of them grew up and trained together, and in Caster's bio we see that Tackle is like an older brother to him, so they're not enemies. All this is good to know, because Tackle doesn't talk at all in the Tacklebox. So the only hints of his personality come from just observing his animations, poses, and expressions. In some preview footage, we briefly see Tackle as an NPC talking, so he'll at least be able to talk. I hope it's not just because he's an NPC there, and that both he and Caster do talk when you play as them, but we'll have to see on that. Also, in Caster's bio, we learn that he and Tackle are part of a tribe of fishermen treasure hunters, the Fiscari. The Fiscari make their living searching the wastes and the ruins scattered around for anything of value, particularly fish. Fish seem to be very important to this world. Given from what little we know, it's a desert wasteland with little water, so of course fish would be sought after. When Fiscari come of age, they take on bounty work, catching fish and finding treasure for whoever hires them. And actually, by the start of Tacklebox, neither Caster nor Tackle are Fiscari. They're just Fiskers. It's not yet clear if Fiskers are apprentice Fiscari, or if that's the name of their species, as all currently known members appear to look pretty similar. The Tacklebox is actually how Tackle earned his scales, and became a full-fledged Fiscari. He actually becomes a Fiscari before Caster, which is interesting as Tackle's bio mentions he's often overshadowed by Caster, yet he earns the rank first. As for the actual events of the Tacklebox, it starts with Tackle walking down a trail in the desert, looking very tired. It seems he's been on this journey for a while. He then reaches the Fiscari training grounds where you meet Fiscari Bale. She seems to be Tackle and Caster's mentor, and she's here to test Tackle. She doesn't have a bio on the site, so our knowledge of her is limited. Her voice is, interesting. I'm unsure if this is how characters will sound in the full game, or if this is a placeholder. At first, it was kinda off-putting, but over time it has grown on me. It's still a bit bizarre. But anyways, she's a bit surprised Tackle's made it, and as quickly as he has. Seems that crossing the desert to make it here is the first test, and it seems like the last training session didn't go so well for Tackle, but he does much better this time when given some practice on catching a fish. The real test begins. You're brought up above this training area and see a vast desert plateau full of ruins scattered around. The whole plateau seems to have been claimed by the Fiscari, who have turned it into their own proving grounds. Tackle must set out and hunt down any fish he can find. From this point, Tackle is on his own. Bale stays behind to offer some advice, but mostly just to take the fish you catch in exchange for some cash. The actual goal, aside from that, isn't ever stated, but Tackle is able to complete his trial and earn his scales, granting him the title of Fiscari Tackle. That's about all the story there is for the moment, so let's talk graphics. One thing I've been loving that indie games have been embracing more and more is low-poly visuals. I've always loved the way N64 games look, and for years it's really irked me whenever people call them ugly. There's such a unique charm and atmosphere to low-poly visuals that you just can't capture with higher poly models. There's a reason horror games can really benefit from a low-poly visual style. The abstract proportions, the blurry or pixelated textures, and the lack of clarity can greatly enhance a horror atmosphere. And as Pseudoregalia and CornKid64 can attest to, it works exceptionally well for dreamlike aesthetics. I've been loving this resurgence in the indie scene, and especially now that it's extended to platformers. And now there's the big catch, although it's not exactly N64. The style is a bit higher poly than that. I've heard some people jokingly call it medium poly. A friend of mine compared it to the Dreamcast. I'm not too familiar with the Dreamcast, but that console does feel like an in-between of the 5th and 6th generations, which I'd say could describe the big catch's graphics. More than a 5th gen, but less than the 6th. The exact authenticity to any one console or generation isn't really the point. It's reminiscent of the era, but not constrained by it. The models are able to look like they come from that era, but without dealing with the technical issues. An N64 could probably make these models, but at this performance, not a chance. To help with giving the impression of authenticity, there are some retro filters you can turn on. There's a couple modern ones, which I'm using for the sake of the video, but I do quite like this one. It's a bit intense though, and can make seeing collectibles difficult, so it's not recommended on a first playthrough. This one though, I'm not a fan of it. It just looks weird. The devs have talked about having even more options for customizing the visuals in the full game, which should be interesting to mess with. But for the Tacklebox, this is all we have. The character designs are great too. We don't have many characters to look at, but I love all of them. The Fiscari seem to be a kind of bird people. Easy to see with Tackle having a prominent beak, and also his exposed legs are like bird legs. Castor is harder to tell that with, but looking closely he does have a beak. They both also have long ears. Where's that hair? Or I guess feathers if they're birds, although maybe they don't even have feathers. Can't tell given the way they're textured, and the promotional art doesn't help either. I'm gonna call them ears. Tackle ties his up, which, if they are ears, doesn't seem like that'd be comfortable. It's a cool feature that not just gives them a unique silhouette, but helps convey motion as they move with the wind when going fast. I love designs that have something like long hair, scarves, or capes that can flow in the wind, or just add a moving part to the design. Interestingly, Bale doesn't have these ear things, or at least has much shorter ones, but she looks like a different kind of bird person, so we could probably expect any other Fiscari we might see to have wildly different designs. Other features they have that I love is their big goofy eyes. They're able to convey a lot of personality with just their eyes. So far, this is a feature exclusive to Castor and Tackle, which if this remains true, does distinguish them from everyone else. And it makes them quite expressive. Just looking at these guys can tell you a lot about their personalities. That also extends to their clothing. Tackle, being the more laid-back, slacker personality, does come through with his clothes. Having more casual wear with a sleeveless shirt and flip-flops, as opposed to Castor, who actually looks dressed to fish. They both have those fishing hats. I've always liked how they look, and Tackle's is taller, almost like he's trying to appear bigger than Castor. One cool detail is if an enemy brings you down to 1 health, your hat will fall off. I also really like Tackle's baggy shorts, not just because I think baggy pants looks cool, but also because of the way it moves with the wind while going fast, and you can even hear it. Good character design goes a long way in making a character enjoyable to control, and I'd say Tackle easily passes that for me. I love just moving around as him, and I'm sure I'll feel the same about Castor when it's his turn. The actual setting is this desert plateau with various ruins littered around that were converted into training grounds for the Fiscari. A lot of speculation to be had with these ruins. Who built them? How old are they? What was their purpose? They're in too much of a dilapidated state to be able to dig up any answers, but it does give a nice taste of the world at large. I love deserts. They get such a bad rap in games because, admittedly, it can be easy for them to feel uninspired or boring, but it's one of my favorite archetypes when done well. I mean, come on guys, there's so many good deserts in games. You've got compact collectathon levels like Gobi's Valley, Angry Aztec, and Granny Canyon. Vast open spaces like Gerudo Desert and Sandpaper Desert, and tight 2D deserts like Sandy Grave and Windswept Wastes. But of course, my favorite desert level of all, Toast Arena. The Tacklebox's desert is right up with those as one of my new favorites. I don't know if it quite beats Toast Arena, but it's close. There's a day and night cycle as well, so we also get a desert at night, which on top of deserts being underrated, nighttime deserts are super underrated. Look at this. This is beautiful. And look at this moon. That's easily the coolest moon I've ever seen, and makes this world feel even more interesting. And this opens up a lot of questions about this world. Why does the moon look like a fish? Did it always look like this, or did something happen to cause it to be this way? Does it have anything to do with that fish-shaped cloud in the Kickstarter trailer? Whatever the truth is, fish might be a lot more important to this world than for their taste. On the face of it, this game is fairly one-note in its theming. A lot of the areas consist of ruined structures, and they can have a very samey look between them. This is reasonable given that it is a Kickstarter toy box, something thrown together to show off the potential of the full game. Looking at the trailers, you can see more unique and varied areas, so there's nothing to worry about with the actual game. Still, even with the homogeneous theming, they do manage to differentiate a few of these areas. Sometimes it's because of the focal point of the area standing out, like the big slide in the slide fort, or the rails in the bone rails. But for others, they can be quite distinct. A lot of these details can add to the environmental storytelling as well. To give special attention to some key locations, there's the pond tower. This is a very tall tower surrounded by water, which gives it a blue hue at the bottom. The water and how it colors the base of the tower gives this place such a majestic aura to it, like this is one of the most important places on the plateau. It's also leaning, which makes the inside feel more unique, having you navigate and platform through uneven terrain unlike the flat floors of the other ruins. Then there's Mortar Island, which stands out by being an oasis with plenty of water and flora. I can almost imagine this being a sacred place to these people, an actual paradise of the wastes. It's also separated from the plateau, helping it have even more of an otherworldly feel to the people of the desert. Interestingly, there's no actual buildings on this island, though there are certainly signs of people being up here. There are wooden structures around, and a lot of pottery. These pots and jars can be found throughout the game. Some of them look like fish. There's a bunch of them in the tutorial pit, so either the Fiscari made them, or they've been collecting them from these ruins. Given the locations you can find them, and how little the Fiscari seem to add to the ruins outside of possibly grapple points, ropes, and other such things, they've probably just been collecting them. There's also these paintings on various walls, which don't appear in many places. The only other place they show up is in the slide fort, so it's hard to tell if they come from the ancient civilization or the Fiscari. But if they do come from the Fiscari, it would make sense as the slide fort is specifically used by them to test how far they can jump. And of course there's the Garden Temple, being a massive structure you spend most of the time inside, giving you a better idea of what these places might have been like before falling into ruin. And at the top, a huge garden paradise, no doubt a location of great importance, maybe where the rulers of this land lived. It would make sense for the most powerful people of this civilization to have easy access to water and plant life all to themselves up on top of their own temple. In this place is also this room with a ton of these fish jars in them. This could have been where they were made. In the last place of significance, there's this imposing tower being held down by ropes on all sides. This thing sure stands out. It looks completely differently from any of the other ruins, like it might have been built by different people. It's a monolith of a structure that is very eye-catching, and quite mysterious since there's no visible way to enter it. And why are these ropes holding it down? It evokes a feeling of forbiddenness, like this structure is some kind of prison, or that these ropes are trying to prevent it from moving somehow. That's not the case, as we'll see when I discuss the inside of this place later, but that's the feeling I get looking at these ropes. What's more likely is that this structure is unstable. It seems important for the Fiscari, so perhaps they tied it down to prevent it from collapsing, assuming the ropes weren't there prior to their claiming of the plateau. The posts the ropes are tied to look like they fit in with the Fiscari aesthetic, so that's what my theory is. But it really does make this place feel all the more mysterious, imposing, and forbidden, which makes you want to find out what's inside even more. Considering the scope of this demo, it's rather impressive how each area is able to feel distinguished from each other, even with most of them having similar assets. One last thing I want to briefly highlight is the UI. Most of the time the UI is hidden and only appears when relevant, and you can manually bring it out and hide it so there's nothing cluttering up the screen. The HUD elements themselves for your health and the counters for your fish and coins look so cool, especially with the satisfying sound they make when they appear. They kind of look like jewelry or trinkets people in this world would wear given their similarity to the coins, which adds a bit of a diegetic feel to them even though they aren't physically on Tackle. This might be one of my favorite HUDs for its really unique flair that feels especially like The Big Catch, while also being pretty simple and easy to read. Man, I just love how this game looks. It's really pretty, and as far as low-polyed styles I've seen come out of indies recently, this is my favorite. The atmosphere and art style is great, the character design is great, the world is interesting and mysterious. There's certainly a lot to look forward to with the full game. I can't wait to see more. Given that this is just a demo, there's not a lot of music here, but what we do have is very good and fairly distinctive. A lot of it is laid back and atmospheric. You'll be hearing this track a lot during the game as it plays in a majority of the locations. You used to hear it even more when the Tacklebox first launched, as they've since added music to a couple areas. A good thing, because those added tracks are really good. Adds a lot more energy to this place, as it's all about flinging yourself at high speeds. The Garden Temple music is also great and really fits how big and imposing this place is. I love the unique sound these tracks give. There's not much else I can compare it to. Well, maybe one thing. Another track you'll hear a lot of is the one that plays while you're out in the desert. Gives off Wind Waker sailing vibes, but still sounds like its own thing. It's also the longest piece, most of them have rather short loops. Another track I love is the one that plays in the final area. Oh man, the atmosphere in here is immaculate, like you're stumbling onto something mysterious but wonderful and awe-inspiring. And that's about it for the soundtrack, aside from the trailer music, which is also great. Yeah, like I said, it's small, but pretty high quality. Just could use some longer loops and we're good. Otherwise, there's certainly a lot to look forward to with the full game. Well, now let's get into the gameplay, starting with the moveset. Your moveset is arguably the most important part of a 3D platformer, especially the case for expressive platformers. Compared to other expressive platformers, this isn't the most complex moveset. It's no pseudo-regalia, but it's got some cool intricacies to it. You can jump, obviously, though it feels heavier than you'd expect. You don't have much height to it, and you can't clear far gaps with it. It takes some getting used to, but it works really well alongside all the other tools you have at your disposal. One is that this game is very momentum focused. It feels a bit like Mario Odyssey, where running downhill will let you pick up speed, and the faster you go, the farther you'll jump. Also, while going fast and jumping, you can keep your momentum in the air, which means you can bunny hop. Bunny hopping is when you repeatedly jump while moving fast, so you don't lose that momentum and can keep your speed for much longer. This is something usually associated with shooters like Quake, but it works quite well in platformers, and it is really fun to do here. You're able to get some serious speed, and being able to keep it and zip around like this is so satisfying. Taking advantage of momentum is how you'll be able to do more advanced techniques and make some crazy jumps. There are various ways you can gain speed. You have this slide that you're able to jump out of. You'll get a tiny amount of speed from it, and get a bit more horizontal distance out of jumps. The much better way of gaining speed is with ground pounding. You can ground pound, which can be used as an attack, and you can slide out of it, which is cool. But what's more important is you can also jump out of a ground pound. The height you get out of it is negligible compared to what happens when you do this off sloped terrain. You'll go flying and gain a lot of speed, which of course you can start bunny hopping out of. This is such an easy way of gaining speed. Any sloped terrain you see can potentially be a speed boost. And of course, you can use this to clear gaps otherwise too big for you. Not everywhere has conveniently placed slopes, so you may have to rely on another move. A common way to make a moveset expressive is by adding wall jumping, and not the kind of restrictive wall jumping you can only do in specific places. Here you can wall jump off anything, though when you do, you aren't locked in a direction at all, so you need to be careful where you point that stick. Jumping on a wall also lets you wall run, and this is one of the most important moves in the game. You'll be constantly using this to get across gaps or chaining it with other moves like wall jumping. If two walls are too far apart to wall jump up normally, but there's a third wall connecting them, you can jump off one wall and wall run to the other. The inputs required for this feel a little weird. You kind of need to do half circles with a stick as you're moving across the wall. It's hard to explain and can take some getting used to. Sometimes you have to run along a wall, then jump off another wall so you can keep running on the one you started on. If the wall bends, you can jump off the wall into the bend to keep going. Even some basic jumps are better done with wall running than your small heavy jump. Just like your jump, wall running can feel heavy, so momentum is also important with wall running. The faster you're moving when you hit a wall, the faster you run. The same also works vertically. You hit a wall while ascending, and the more time you'll be on the wall before you start going down. There's a lot you can do with wall running, and it's very satisfying pulling it off. Another move you could do is this backflip, which looks cool, but I haven't found much of a practical use for it. I guess as a way to quickly course correct, but it's a little unwieldy. But what's more useful is by rotating the stick you can spin. While spinning, you can hold down a button to keep you spinning so you can freely move however you want. You gain a bit more height when you jump while spinning, and if you ground pound jump while spinning, you can continue to spin. The main purpose of spinning is it drastically slows down your descent, allowing you to get much more distance out of a jump, and more precisely land where you want. You can also start spinning while already in the air, which can be helpful. It's a bit awkward to input, but if you get good at it, it makes things go by even faster. There's various parts of the environment you can interact with. You can rail grind, just jump on these vines or roots and you'll automatically grind on them. The speed is set so you can't carry much of your momentum onto them, but you retain it after jumping off. Not much you can do on them, you can turn around on them, but that's about it. There are vines you can climb on walls in the ceiling. They really remind me of the vines in Rayman 2. Movement on them is quite quick and snappy, it feels really good. Too many games have climbing like this be so slow, but that's not a problem here. You can also jump up them to make gaps, and even horizontally when on the ceiling. You can also grab ledges and move across them just as fast, which also feels good. And jumping up from a ledge is snappy. No waiting for a climb up animation here. There are also pipes you can climb, and points you can land on like it's Sly Cooper, no circle button required, and ropes right out of Mario Sunshine that you can land on and bounce off of, and poles you can walk or slide on, or grab onto and fling yourself with. You've got a fishing rod, and it's used for more than just catching fish. It's an integral part of your moveset. You're able to hook onto objects such as spike balls, health pickups, and bait. And when you reel them in, they'll attach to your line. Except the health, you'll just heal with it. And when they're on your line, you can cast them out. But you can also hook onto grapple points, springs, and these blue flowers. Grapple points let you swing on them, often used to get over gaps, and the more momentum you have, the farther you can go. You can also pull certain things you can latch onto. Springs will launch you when you pull back on them, and you get some serious speed off them. You can't use them for a speed boost everywhere, but in the places you can, it's exhilarating, and these flowers will pull you towards them and launch you in a straight line. Another thing you can latch onto are these worm-like creatures called sand shredders. Doing so will have them pull you across the sand much quicker than walking. They're pretty similar to sand seal surfing in the open-air Zelda games. They can also go over quicksand, though there isn't any outside the start preventing you from leaving without the sand shredders. While riding a sand shredder, you can do a boost for some extra speed, and while you have to wait for this meter to fill up to do it again, there's a bit of a delay between when you hit the button and when Tackle cracks the line. So if you time it just right, you can hit the button right before the meter is full, and you'll get an extra boost the moment it does fill. It's not hard to do, but it's fun being able to keep up a combo, and it's rewarding to go even faster and wait less for the meter to fill. While riding a sand shredder, you can go through these rings all around the desert, which will give you a continuous boost for a few seconds, which is pretty handy. Letting go of the shredder lets you keep your momentum so you can bunny hop out of it and move just as fast. And the last thing you can do with your rod, you have an attack. A simple horizontal swing you can use to activate things or break objects, but it's mainly used to fight enemies. There are only 2 enemies in the game. These things, I have no idea what they are or how to describe them. They're very simple. They roam around their set areas, and when they see you, they run towards you and hurt if you touch them. They're very simple to defeat. One swipe with your rod, and that's it. Then there's these tall things, which fans seem to refer to as mortar birds. They kind of disguise themselves as some kind of structure in the sand, but when you get close enough, they spring up and start pelting you with bombs. They send out volleys of bombs in threes before they stop for a break, and they can be relentless. But where their bombs land is highlighted, so as long as you keep moving, you'll be fine. Though they will try to lead their shots, and it can be tough to avoid getting hit while on a sand shredder. Geez, these guys are tall and quite intimidating, but they go down easy. One swipe to knock them down, and another takes them out. You can even just run into them while on a sand shredder to knock them over. All but one of them are found in the open desert, and they're in 3 groups. 2 of the groups have 3 of them, and the other has 4. And there's your moveset. You've got a good amount of tools that work together very well and allow you to express yourself, especially with momentum. Though compared to something like Pseudo-Regalia, which gives you a very powerful array of moves that combo with each other to be able to climb nearly any terrain if you put your mind to it, the Big Catch is quite a bit more restrictive. You can do a lot with the moveset, but stuff like your heavy jump and limited wall running distance makes you much more reliant on the level design to provide you with the ability to gain that momentum. In Pseudo-Regalia, you can also use momentum to go fast and make big jumps, but you can give yourself that boost basically anywhere. You have to be more particular in the Big Catch. On the scale of expressive platformers, the Big Catch isn't on the highest end of it, even if the moveset is more complex than stuff like the Mario Collectathons. In those games, it's much easier to use their movesets basically anywhere on command. You could do a lot of cool things here, but it will take more work to do. The moves do complement each other, and combo well, making it immensely satisfying to get good with each part, and to put it all together to get through some of these challenges. But you don't always have a slope to jump off of, or a grapple point, so doing all that is more demanding and reliant on actual level design. But when you do it, oh man, it's satisfying. The sense of speed you get from that momentum is one of the most exhilarating feelings I've ever gotten in a 3D platformer. You know when you're in a car and going down a steep hill, that tingling feeling you get in your gut? Very few games have ever given me that feeling, and the Big Catch is one of them. Now that we know our moveset, let's get into what you're using it to do. This game is a collectathon, so of course there are things to collect. There are 2 collectibles here, the first being coins. Very unique looking coins. They come in 3 sizes. The small ones are worth 1, the mediums are worth 5, and the big ones are worth 10. The small ones kind of look like fish scales, which is a neat detail. These are scattered all across the game, and there's not much else to them. They require exploration to find them or completing challenges. Some of them can be pretty well hidden too. You really need to be exploring every inch of these ruins to find them all. All the enemies also drop coins. These guys drop 1 coin each, and the mortar birds each drop a medium coin, so you need to be pretty diligent in making sure you've defeated every enemy. There used to be a problem where if you knocked an enemy into a wall, the coin they dropped would clip through the wall. Thankfully, that was fixed. Well, it was mostly fixed. Even if you miss a coin, the enemy who had it will have it again when they respawn, so you can't permanently lose any. But of course it would be better to not miss any coins, so you don't need to wait for them to come back. You have a compass, which only ever points in one direction, north I'd presume, but without an actual map, it is kind of useless. Except it is able to track collectibles. This part that looks like a fish will glow when fish are nearby, and the orb in the center will glow red when coins are nearby, but they only do it when you have nearly all of them. So it's mainly there to help you find those last few collectibles you missed, and it's helped me out quite a few times as some of these are easy to miss or forget. I quite like this solution. It is a common problem in collectathons to miss a handful of collectibles, and with no clue as to where you missed them, you'll have to traverse the whole level again looking for that last one. Other games have their own solutions, but most of the time it's stuff like just directly telling you where it is, like putting it on the map in Mario Odyssey, or just literally pointing out the exact location like in Demon Turf or Clive and Wrench. I don't like this solution because it takes away from actual exploration and makes the process of getting the last few collectibles more like busy work. It's not nearly as satisfying to find that last collectible that's eluded you when the game points out the exact location than it is to not know where it is and actually find it. This is why I like how Tacklebox handles it, because it doesn't tell you exactly where it is, just that you're close to it. It does get brighter the closer you are to them, but you still need to actually find it, so it helps track down those last few coins by narrowing down the location without robbing you of the actual experience of finding it for yourself. The second collectible, which serves as the game's main big collectible, is fish. There are 26 fish across the desert, and the purpose of them is you can exchange them for 10 coins apiece to bail. Technically, the coins are the primary collectible, but the fish feel a lot more significant and require more effort to get. These aren't your ordinary golden trinkets you walk up to and just pick up. You need to work for them. The fish are alive and don't want to be caught. Despite being fish, you'll find most of them on land. They have legs and sure can run. To catch a fish, you'll need to chase them down, whack them with your rod, then hook them while they're stunned, and finally reel them in. Damn, that's satisfying. I love catching fish. Of all the celebration animations and jingles for obtaining a collectible in a collectathon, this just might be my favorite. Not only is the animation and sound design for it really cool, but it's made even sweeter because of the challenge of actually catching them. This beats the hell out of just touching a star or a jiggy or even a golden banana. The fish were inspired by Ape Escape. In those games, the monkeys are the main collectible, and you have to use whatever gadgets you have at your disposal to catch them. Meanwhile, they'll actively try to escape from you or fight back. It was such a cool idea to have the things you're after be enemies, thus giving you more of a challenge for the process of collecting them. It was the best part of the Ape Escape games, and I'm glad we finally have another game that does something similar. The fish aren't quite as varied as the monkeys in Ape Escape, nor can they do things like use guns or pilot vehicles. But those fish have quite the legs on them. They will run away if you get too close to them, and you can't sneak up on them. Even if they aren't looking, they'll spot you. They'll run away in their set zones. They only have specific places they can go. They won't leave the area and run into the desert. If you keep up with them long enough, they will tire out and slow down, which is your opportunity to catch them. But of course, if you're good enough, you can get them before they slow down. The fish come in a few variants. Blue fish are the most common and are basically the default. The only thing special about them is that they can be found in water. Unsure if this is something only blue fish can do in the full game, but in the Tacklebox, only blue fish are found in water. When a fish is in water, you'll have to do some actual fishing. You'll need bait, which are found in these trees. They'll be around whenever fish are in water, but you'll need to find them and make your way to the fish with it. Not a difficult task most of the time, but you can't use your line for anything else while holding on to bait, so you may need to throw it to specific spots and come back for it. When you have bait, it's as simple as casting your line and reeling it in when they bite, and now you have to chase them down, though if you take too long, they can jump back in the water. Green fish are fairly common, and they are fast. You won't be able to catch them on foot, or even be able to stay close enough to them to slow them down, except for this one where that's the point. Their speed does vary. Some aren't that much faster than blues, but overall they tend to be the hardest to catch. You'll often need to use the environment to catch them, waiting for them to get in the right position to get the drop on them. Some of them can be a real pain to catch, but when you do, it's super satisfying. Red fish are more aggressive. When they tire out, they'll try to kick you or spit fireballs at you, though I had a hard time getting them to do the fireball attack. I only had it happen with this one while recording, but I could have sworn all of them could do it. Maybe I just got unlucky. Anyways, they end up being the easiest ones to catch, as they either are just as fast as blues or slower, and they don't attack enough for that to matter. There's also only a handful of them, so you really don't see them often. And the final type of fish are gold ones. As far as I could tell, they're just reskinned reds, but there's only 2 of them, and they both appear at the end of the biggest platforming gauntlets in the game. Though one of them can jump off the tower, so you really have to be fast or you're falling all the way down here. As I said, I love the fish. My only hope for the full game is more types of fish. Maybe make the red fish harder, as they're a bit too easy here. Getting into how the game is structured, you start off in a tutorial area. You have space to get used to your moveset, various objects and obstacles to learn how you can interact with them, and signs you can read to get a more in-depth description on how your moves work. Of course, you're also able to skip all that and just continue if you already know what you're doing. Though there are coins scattered around to collect, and you'll need to catch a fish for bail before she'll let you loose. This place teaches you basically everything you'll need to know for the rest of the game, but one weird thing is this spike ball. You can hook onto it and throw it the same way as bait, and it's used here to pop these balloons for coins. They respawn, which can make it hard to keep track of which ones you've hit, so make sure you've got 31 coins before you leave this area. But the weird thing about this spike ball is that it's the only one in the game. They tutorialize something that doesn't get used past this point. They also give you a mandatory tutorial on using bait to catch fish, so it's not like it's necessary for that. Maybe it was intended to be used but got cut and they just left it in the tutorial. A couple other things to note is that you can find this weird thing with a lantern. You can talk to it, but it has nothing to say. These things are checkpoints. Simple enough, you'll respawn at the last one you've touched. And they'll heal you, though dying isn't much of a hazard for most of the game, and not every area even has one. And the other thing is that at the top of this place is a fishing rod that when hit will lower its hook. You can then grab onto it on the bottom and be pulled up. These act as shortcuts back up, so if you fail, you won't have to climb up again. But anyways, once you've caught your first fish, you are given the whistle used to attract sand shredders to you. You're free to ride them to leave this area. And from then on, well, you can go anywhere you want. The entire rest of the game is open for you to explore in any order you want. Some people seem to find this a bit overwhelming, not knowing what you should do, but I really don't understand this complaint. The game doesn't give you an obvious direction or goal aside from catching more fish and finding more coins, but I don't think you need more. Go out and explore. There's no wrong direction. You don't unlock new abilities or items used elsewhere, so there is no harm in any direction you take. The structure from this point is simply ride out into the desert in whatever direction you desire, stopping at any ruins you find, collecting all the coins and fish found within, then moving on to the next ruin. There's not much in the desert between ruins. Most of the mortar birds are out here, and you get coins from them. But aside from that, there's this well off by itself with a single medium coin on it, and this spiral near the rope tower with a fish in it. Besides those, you won't have to worry about searching the desert for anything. And they do stand out enough where that's not a problem. The desert is mostly for getting from place to place. There are ruins scattered around the desert that essentially act as levels. They all vary in size and amount of collectibles. Some are quite small and only have a handful of things to get. Others are massive and require checking every corner for their collectibles. A lot of them also emphasize specific mechanics, giving them each a distinct feel, and tests you in different ways. The first place I tend to go to is the bounce course. None of these ruins have official names, but I'll be using their fan-given names. The bounce course is directly ahead of you as you leave the tutorial pit, so it's an obvious place to start. This place is all about bouncing, hence the name. You can do a higher bounce by holding jump, though I like ground pounding on it. There's hardly any coins here, but there's a couple fish, one of which is in the basement, and isn't a problem at all. But the other one on top of the main building is a green fish, and catching it can be a real challenge, especially if this is the first place you go to. It's too fast to tire out, and you need to take advantage of bouncing to get it. There's multiple ways of getting it, from using your speed to jump right into it, or luring it to a spot you can ambush. When a fish jumps, it's locked into the jump and thus can't run away if you're right there. So this is a good strategy for many fish you'll encounter. Chasing after fish offers the most player expression with your moveset. Because the fish run away from you, there isn't a set location they're in, which means there's no set solution for how to catch them. Of course, there are some with obvious solutions to catch them, and others in small areas that don't offer much creativity, but for the most part, however you figured out how to catch them is the way to catch them. This is the most apparent with the green fish, as you simply can't chase them down. So instead, you need to look at the environment and find a way to use it to catch them off guard. There's a couple of really small areas, such as the crane towers and the cube. Both of these only have one fish and only a handful of coins. The cube is a simple timing challenge of you pulling this part out while having to platform up it, also thinking to check the side for a secret passage. At the top is a green fish, but not much where it can run to, so it's the only green fish you're meant to tire out to catch. The crane towers is all about flinging yourself using these grapple points. You get to the top of this tower, jump off, latch on, and let go to have the momentum bring you to one of these hooks. It can be difficult getting the angle right, or letting go at the right time, but damn does it feel good when you do it. But then there's these coins on this arch, which is a lot harder to get to than it looks. It always takes me a few attempts to get them. There's also the seesaw course, which is also pretty small. Again, only one fish, which isn't very hard to get. You just need to lure it over here for an easy catch. The seesaws aren't very prominent. There's only a couple, and they don't offer much in the way of challenge. The only part of note is getting to the top of this place. You can see 2 coins here, but how do you get there? You look around, and when you figured it out, it's like, they want me to do what? You've got to make a long string of wall running and jumping to get to these coins, and then go back to get onto the roof. Now for the bigger ones. The fling course is a fun one. It's all about these springers you use to fling yourself. You're challenged with this in various ways, from making some simple gaps, or having to time it right so you go through the hole, or grab a hook off in the distance. There's also this rotating thing on the main building you'll first need to fling through one of the openings, then use it to ride up to the next floor, and then again for the very top. At the top is a big springer that sends you flying, and you need it for a large coin. There's a couple of fish here, one hidden below everything else. Easy to catch when you find it, but the other will run around the course, making you fling after it if you don't catch it right away. The bone rails are almost 2 levels connected to each other. You can only access one of them through the other. This place is all about rail grinding. You'll have one fish over here that's pretty easy to catch because it keeps grinding between platforms, so it's vulnerable a lot of the time. Yes, the fish can grind. The tricky part is actually getting on top of this building. You need to ride this rail, then jump off, and repeatedly wall run then jump to the next wall to get here. This might be the hardest single jump in the game. This took forever my first time, and here's me doing it in one try now. I had to redo it a couple of times to get a failed attempt to show you how hard it is. But seriously, this jump isn't messing around. Once on top, you'll be able to rail grind across this bridge to get to the other half. Here we have a more complex layout that requires more effort to navigate, with more floors to work with. There's also 2 green fish here, and they can be 2 of the hardest fish to catch. The first one is actually in a position where you can easily jump to it and hit it before it has a chance to run. But if you miss that opportunity, you're in for a chase. The best thing you can do at this point is try to lead it back to its starting position to try that again, because there's hardly any place else where you can get it. And then, once you have that one, you make your way up here, where you need to use a spring to fling yourself onto a rail and then jump off to the next fish, who will more than likely get away and you'll have to chase it in the same area as the first fish. If you got the first one, you should be able to get this one as well. But sheesh, they make you work for them here. Mortar Island. Oh boy, this place. This was one of the first places I visited on my first playthrough, and it was a hell of an introduction. This place is actually detached from the plateau, so you'll need to fling yourself over to it. And what you find is a mortar bird at the very top. Good luck! You'll have to go through this whole island while under constant fire from this thing, and it's relentless. You'll have to take advantage of the breaks it takes after 3 bombs to get through this. You'll also need to use the bombs it shoots to break boulders in the way. This place is pretty intense to get through, and it's quite a spectacle, especially here where you can go really fast. Aside from being under constant fire, this place uses springers, rails, and ropes a lot. Also make sure you don't destroy this boulder, or getting this large coin will be significantly harder. Once you make it to the top and kill the mortar bird, you're able to more comfortably search for the 2 fish here. One of them is just in this section separate from everything else, and since it's a red fish, it's very simple to catch. The other is hidden in this cave, but also underwater, so you'll need bait. But in order to get to it, you'll need to use the springs, and you can't do it while holding bait, so you'll need to throw the bait to a higher area and come back for it, which is cool. This is the only fish that makes you do something like that. This is one of my favorite levels. It's so fun and thrilling to dodge the mortars and go really fast here. The slide fort is next, and might be my least favorite area. Not because it's bad, it's got a lot of cool things. But the titular slide? Well, I'll get to that. First off is a green fish at the bottom, around some slippery slopes that's quite a challenge to get. You'll need to utilize speed to catch up with it. Thankfully, since it's close to the open desert, you can get a speed boost out of a sand shredder. There's a new mechanic here, these blue flowers that you can latch onto and pull yourself into them and fling you in that direction. There's this area where you'll need to utilize one to get coins. You're able to stay off the ground to continuously readjust yourself as long as you don't get too far away, which is helpful. You'll need to use these to get to the top of this place and up this slope. Here's a big gate that you can open so you won't have to go through all that again if you fall off. Up here are my two main issues. One is this slope you need to use a sand shredder to go up and launch to this platform to get these coins here. I always have such a hard time getting the timing right to get on it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it feels like luck when I finally get it. And the other issue is the big slide itself. Simple enough, slide down and try to land on one of the pillars with coins and a fish. Weirdly, the fish here is green even though it just stays there and can't run away. But same principle. I have such a hard time landing on them, and I can't tell what I need to do to get the right distance. And you need to go down here a minimum of 5 times to get everything. 3 times for the pillars, and then there's 2 branches on both sides for more coins. I know it's probably just a skill issue, but I'm always stuck here for a bit trying over and over again to get them. It's not too bad, I'm not here for like hours, but damn, it's hard for me. Addendum. Since writing this script, I've played through the game multiple times and have gotten a lot better at both the ramp and slide. It was a skill issue. I kept trying to jump at the end when you should just let the momentum carry you. This does improve the area by quite a bit. Alright, back to the video. Although one cool detail is at the bottom of this slide are a bunch of posts with the names of various Fisker and Fiscari and the distances they've traveled. You can even see Bales and Caster's records. I do wonder if we'll see any of these other people in the full game. Some people have challenged themselves to see how far they can launch off this slide, which is cool, but I'm just here for the goodies. The pond tower might be my favorite area. For one, aesthetically, it's so cool looking and striking. This really tall tower that's leaning a bit and some of the only water on the plateau. I suppose water could be the gimmick of this place, though Mortar Island also had water. And there's not a ton to do in the water. There's a fish in the water you'll need to search to find bait for, but otherwise, there's some coins down there, and the entrance to the tower. Mainly, this is just a big platforming challenge using some of the skills found elsewhere, like jumping on ropes, swinging across gaps, and even those blue flowers from the slide forts. This place is big, so you'll need to scour to find everything. These coins can be in tricky places. Like, this is just mean. Oh, and at the end are these coins you'll need to spin jump from the very top to get. If you didn't know how the spin jump worked, good luck trying to get them. Thankfully, there's plenty of shortcuts you can unlock. You'll need them if you fall. There's actually 4 fish here, aside from the one in water and another one near the bottom on lily pads. This one requires you to slide through this passage under this block you pull out of the wall, which is pretty tricky. And at the very top is one of the 2 goldfish, who will immediately jump off if you aren't fast enough. And then there's the Garden Temple. I always save this place for last because it's the biggest, most complex, challenging, and climactic platforming gauntlet in the game. This place is so huge, there's a whopping 6 fish to find here. None of them are too hard to get. A couple red ones that are straightforward, a green one in this room that is simple to get as you can just hide up here and jump down on it, and a couple in water. First, you need to figure out how to get into this place, which involves this path where you wall run between 2 walls and climb up vines before swinging on poles. Once you're in, you can open the front gates, and now the real challenge begins. Look at this room. Seriously, look how big it is. You need to climb all the way up and around here just to get to the other side of the room. I'm not going to walk you through the whole place, but this first room really paints a picture of what this place is like. I can get through here no problem now, but my first time took quite a few attempts. There are many times where just looking at it will make you ask, they want me to do what? Like how about here where you need to use momentum to get all the way to this pole over here? And here's a spot where you have to wall run between 2 walls for quite a while, and you better get good at this. There's also a bunch of enemies here, so make sure you get them all. And be careful with these ones to not knock the coins off and have to jump all the way down to get them. Luckily, there's a lot of shortcuts you can unlock, so getting back isn't a hassle. This place is divided into 2 sections, divided by this middle part. Getting from one side to the other is a bit more of a hassle, so you'll definitely want to be efficient with collecting coins. This place is so big that you may need to go deeper into it for the coin radar to start working if you do miss anything. This is such a fun and cool place to go through. And finally, you get to the garden at the top, and one last challenge to get your prize. 1 more golden fish, and one hell of a view. Jumping down from here is so cathartic. Now that you've gone to every area and caught every fish, and cashed them all in for a fat stack of coins. What do you do with all this dough? Well, by exploring, you may have entered this cave where you'll find a pedestal in front of a big door. When standing on the pedestal, the door displays the number 696 on it. That's how many coins you need to open it. Guess how many coins are in the game? Normally, I'd have a problem with a collectathon forcing 100% just to beat it. But for a couple reasons, I don't think it's an issue here. One relates to the reward you get for this. The other is just because of the nature of this being a Kickstarter demo. This isn't the full game, just a toy box to play around in. The goal isn't necessarily to get through this door, but it's something you can do if the gameplay and world captured you so much you desire to do so. As long as the big catch itself isn't so restrictive on what's required to simply beat it, we'll be fine. But on the other side of this door is a path that leads to a tomb. This opens up a lot of questions, but you jump in and fall down to a pool, which leads to this big room. If you haven't already figured it out by now, you're below the big tower with the ropes holding it down, and now you're climbing to the top. There's this huge chandelier, the shape of a fishing lure in the center. There's only so much speculation we can do about this with just the Tacklebox. But man, this place is interesting. This whole plateau is used as a Fiscari training grounds. But are the ruins around this place Fiscari structures? Did they build this place before it went into ruins? I'm guessing not, except maybe this tower. It could have been the one thing they built here, maybe to honor a specific Fiscari who was long dead, and this was his tomb. But it could also be another ruin that the Fiscari claimed and simply added the door and chandelier to. Perhaps the tomb wasn't for a Fiscari, but for whoever the tower was originally built for, someone long forgotten. Interesting to think about, even if there's not a lot really to be able to get answers. This tower offers one last challenge to climb to the top, though if you've made it this far, it won't be a problem. You make it to the lure and are able to climb to the interior of the tower, and from there it's more wall jumping, swinging, and flinging until you've made it. At the top is a new outfit. Putting it on is proof you've earned your scales. And congratulations, you've finished the Tacklebox. You can now go back to Bale to get some extra dialogue acknowledging your accomplishment and officially being granted the rank of Fiscari. But that's it, no ending cutscene or credits, though you can see the credits through the main menu. Hey look, it's me. But yeah, the game doesn't formally end. This is just the reward for getting 100%. And that's the other reason why I don't think it's a problem for 100% to be required to get here. You could consider earning your scales to be the ending, but it's just there for those dedicated enough to get to it. You're just supposed to get as much out of this as you want. After you get this costume, you're able to start a new file with it. There is a new game plus, which is nice. But there's still one more thing. You didn't get to the very top of the tower. Actually getting to the top is the ultimate challenge. There's nothing up there but pride, and it's up to you if that's a worthy prize. You can see the path, and it's treacherous. It requires precision, jumping out of a ground pound on slopes, and swinging across the outer part of the tower with grapple points spread far enough apart to never be comfortable. And one mistake sends you all the way down, forcing you to reclimb the whole tower to try again. This is the ultimate challenge in the game, and I haven't been able to get up there before, so let's do it right now. The individual jumps, while challenging, aren't too hard to do, but the time sink of missing one adds a lot of pressure. It took a while, but I finally did it. And man, look at this view. This is all you get, but the satisfaction makes it all worthwhile. And that's what this whole Tacklebox is about. The satisfaction of overcoming challenges such as this. And that's all there is to the Tacklebox. An amazing slice of the potential of what will be the big catch. I was thoroughly impressed by it. It may just be a demo, and obviously not a full game, but there's plenty of meat here. It's pretty big for a demo, and the movement is some of the best in any 3D platformer I've played. It's seriously in consideration for one of my favorite 3D platformers. The only thing holding it back is that it's just a demo, which gives me very high hopes for the full game. The Big Catch is currently my most anticipated game. It's number 1. It overtook the spot previously reserved for Silksong. I was already really excited for it, but the Tacklebox pushed it right to the top. I can't wait for the Big Catch. I might be setting myself up for disappointment saying this, but if it lives up to the potential shown in the Tacklebox, then it could end up being one of my all-time favorite games. Like, the Tacklebox is already dangerously close to reaching my top picks. I can only imagine what the full game will be like. You should play the Tacklebox. It's free, so you have no excuse. And then, wishlist the big catch. It's gonna be great. Man, don't let anyone tell you 3D platformers are dead. There have been so many great ones recently. Pseudo Regalia, Corn Kid 64, Penny's Big Breakaway, Demon Turf, Clive and Wrench. And there's even more yet to come out to be excited about. Caro Quest 64, Rad Adventure, Skylark 64, Billy Bust Up, Demon Tides, The Big Catch. We're in a golden age of 3D platformers. You just have to look past the AAA space. Although even in that space, we've gotten some cool ones recently, even if infrequently outside of Nintendo and Sega. The indie scene has so many hidden gems if you're willing to look and go outside of your comfort zone. 3D platformers aren't dead, and neither is gaming as a whole. There's certainly problems, but there's never been more games to choose from. You just have to look for them. Whew. Sorry about the wait on this one. This was supposed to be a short and quick video, but thanks to a lot of certain real-world events, a serious wave of demotivation and writer's block hit me like a truck. Most days I just couldn't bring myself to work on it. It got real bad. This has to have been the least productive time since I've started making videos. I've been avoiding calling it depression, but at this point it's pretty obvious that's what it is. I was originally planning on this video being released in January, so you can see just how much this affected me. I also had to shift priority to Dawn of a New Day, which went really well this year. We made $5,555.55. And to top it all off, I moved. So, aside from depression and existential dread, things were just busy in general. At least this was a shorter video, not a Paper Mario-sized video, so the times I was able to pull myself out of the pit of despair to actually get work done, there wasn't a ton that needed to be done. I can't say I'm better, really, but hopefully things won't get too much worse too quickly. But yeah, been wanting to make a video about the Tacklebox since I first played it, but wasn't quite able to do it closer to when it came out. I already talked about this in my last update video, you should watch if you haven't already. It reveals what my current roadmap is, including what my next video is. I won't say what it is here, so you have to watch that video if you want to know. I will say, though, that it will take a while to make, so please be patient. And that's about it. Thanks for watching, and please support me on Patreon if you feel I've earned it. Link in the description. And now to shout out my patrons. The Sidequestian Gentleman, Enemy, Kaiju, Friday, Matto Schmilmore, and Jordan Laughlin.